So let's talk all about charm casting. So what have we got here? This here is some charms that were from the 1930s through to the 1960s, and what they used to do with these, or they actually called them fortune-telling cake set. And so what they would actually do with these was you would wrap the little charm in a piece of baking parchment and you would put it in around your cake batter. And when the cake was cooked, you would then cut the pieces of cake. You would break it open, undo your parchment, and whatever charm you received was considered your fortune. Some of them, this one had the images or the meanings printed on the back of the box. They used to come with the pieces of parchment. I think I've still got the original pieces of parchment in here. And they would then read their fortune. So if someone there got the high hat, there isn't a doubt you're going to step out or you're going to step out. And there used to be funny little rhymes that they would have. So I've got several sets of these that are very, very old, and they are just beautiful. Quite often, though, these were made with lead, and they used to cook them in a hot oven in parchment. Heaven forbid if you tried to bite the cake without breaking it open with a fork first. But quite interesting, and like I said, when you stop and think about lead pieces in a hot gas oven, not a good combination for our modern day options. But charm casting these days has come a long, long way instead of baking them in a cake. Mind you, the ceremony is still practiced around the world, and they don't use lead pieces. They often use little tiny ceramic pieces. And again, right back in the old days, they would have little ceramic statues or figurines of like a baker or a candlestick maker or the loaf of bread. And they would have the same ceremony. So if someone would receive a piece of bread in their cake or a loaf of bread, ceramic piece, it would mean you will never be hungry. You will never go without food or abundance. It's still a common practice in certain parts of the world where they do a bread where they've got the charms in it, and they actually put in a little tiny baby Jesus. And so they would have all the villagers and all the people to the festives for Christmas time. So if you got the baby Jesus, you would be many blessings throughout the coming year, but you would also be the host for the next event where everybody else would come to your place. And so the ceremony continued on year after year. There's a lot of different practices around charm reading and charm casting for divination. So bring in modern day charms. This here is 2 of my kits, and there's no doubles in here. There's 100 charms in there. My charms have been specifically chosen to be reading and divination charms. And the reason I have particularly selected these, it's to have symbols that coincide with our very complex modern day lives. When someone buys a bunch of charms, they'll often think, I'll just go and buy off Temu or eBay or whatever, one of the marketplaces, a whole bag of charms. The problem is when you're going to get a whole bag of charms, you're going to end up with 6 different dogs and 4 different butterflies and 3 keys and 10 crosses and so on. So they often have multiples and multiples. The other problem is when you do buy bulk charms like that, very rarely, you would never see them with meaning sheets, casting sheets, dictionaries, how to use them and so on. With my charm kits, you actually get a booklet of your meanings and even how to lay out different spreads and so on. You also get casting sheets. I'll just zoom out so you can see that. Casting sheets I actually put in these big flip folders, and these flip folders are fabulous because you can cast your charms directly on them. And so when you are using casting sheets, you would actually go through your charms. And one of the biggest mistakes everybody makes with charms is they go in like this and they grab a handful. You do not need a handful of charms. One of the easiest ways is actually use a spoon. These are just one of my little spoons from my teacups. And you literally pick up a little spoonful of charms, and that is how many charms you would need. Or if you don't want to use a spoon, I would say pick up like a pinch. You would do a pinch of salt or a pinch of herbs. And again, you can scatter, scatter, scatter like you are putting salt or herbs on your cooking. And that is how you would scatter charms. You do not need to put a handful. And that is the biggest mistake of all that people make. One of the things is if you are doing public charm readings with friends or fairs, markets, cafes, whatever it is, and you don't want people to put their sticky mitts in your charms, get a teaspoon. And it doesn't matter whether it's one of my little gold ones, another favourite teaspoon mine with a cat. Like I said, you would still use a teaspoon, and you're stopping people then from grabbing the handful of the charms. When you've got casting sheets, one of the good things is I always say go and put a couple of charms per section. Doesn't matter, never look at your charms. And you then read each piece. So I've got that on an angle. And you then read each section of your spread of where you've put your charms. Charm casting is a really unique, fun way of reading. It's great because I used to actually have a whole purse of them. I've still got my little purse of charms that I would use when I was still working in corporate world, because I used to still read at lunchtimes in cafe that was near to my work, and whether that was with other work colleagues or other people that would meet me in the cafes at lunchtime. And people would walk by and they would look at you and think, oh, they're just playing with beads or jewellery pieces. No one actually ever knew what we were up to. So it is a really discreet way of reading things, and no one needs to know what you're up to. So I hope that helps answer some of your questions all about charm casting. And my charm kits do come with the dictionary of meanings. They come in a lovely little cotton bag. You get 10 free casting sheets to download, plus you actually get a full online video course where I teach you all the different ways you can use charms for divination. So I look forward to seeing you in the courses. Thanks for stopping by.